Hello everyone. In this session, we're going to understand how to bind data from a database to our combo box. Well, I hope you had seen drop down. So a drop down will look very similar to that of a combo box or vice versa. Okay, so the name are different, otherwise they are very similar. You can use the name drop down when you work with web application. Okay, so when you work with Windows application, you need to say it as combo box. Okay, specifically when you work with .NET. So when you run this, you see this is your combo box. So it will load up this city from the database or from the data table, and uh, when we create some event on that particular event, this combo box has to be filled with data coming from this database. Okay, so for the data, I had created one database, and this is my database here, Combobox db.mdf. Inside that, I have tables. I'll right click on that and I'll add a new table, and that table name is tbl city demo. So you can go for this table and you will say open table definition. Inside this, I had created two columns, ID and city, data type int and varchar. So what changes I did is I created primary key for my column, for my this column ID, and then I also changed the identity specification property from no to yes. And I hope why we specifically use this identity specification is to create automatic increment of your IDs. So your ID is going to be started with 1, and then next time you don't have to manually put 1 2 3 4. It will auto increment it. Okay, so let's put some dummy values inside this city column. Okay, so I'll go to my table, I'll right click on that and I'll say show table data. So you can see I already put it, I already inserted some data inside my city column. So these are my city, that this has to be loaded inside that combo box. That exactly the thing we want, right? So let's go into the code part and let's understand how to do this. So I'll press F7 to enter into my code section. So what exactly be the event where we can write this? One thing what we can do is that when we run this application, your form is basically loaded, right? So we can write all code inside this event, form load event. That thing we can do, right? So let's do that. Let's create that event. So I'll go to my design part and I'll double click to generate form load event, right? And inside this scope we will write our SQL SQL connection command and other things that we need to do in order to fill our combo box. So we will say, so to work with your SQL connections we need the namespace, and I hope you remember that namespace. That is using system.data.SQL client. This is the namespace. Let me increase the font. Okay, so now in the form load event I can use those SQL data members. SQL connection con equals to new SQL connection, and inside that what we need a connection string that will come from this MDF file, your database. So right click on that and go to the properties. It will pop up, or you can see the property palette here. Inside that we have our connection string. You can see this is your connection string. So now you can copy this connection string and you can insert this here in this place. Put a semicolon and remove these two double quotes from here and from here, and then give the verbatim string here. Now this is going to be our connection string. Next thing what we want is we need to give some query to fetch the data from the database inside the combo box. So we'll say SQL command cmd object of SQL command then equals to new SQL command, and then I'll write my query, and the query is very simple, right? Select star from tbl what's the table name? TBL city demo. Okay, and then I'll also pass the connection object here. That's it. Next thing what we want is SQL data adapter. And I hope you know that SQL data adapter is basically bridges the gap between the physical data source and your application. So SQL data adapter SDA equals to new SQL data adapter. And what exactly it needs? It needs the command SQL command object. So I'll pass CMD here. And then what I need an empty data table. Data table dt equals to new data table. This is the thing. And then I'll say SDA dot fill, and I will fill this data table. And in my previous session I told you that in this particular line, at this particular point, where exactly my data, my cumulative data is, this is going to be the SDA which holds your complete data. And now it passes that data to the data table, which is earlier empty, and now it filled with all data. And data, it means our city column. Okay, so I'll say combo box 1. Now I need to fill those combo box with the data. Okay, so combo box 1 dot display member. Display member is going to be, it's going to be the city, this column city. Okay, so I'll say city, and then I need to pass value member here. Combo box 1 dot value member, and value member is basically the your ID, where exactly the value resides. Okay, so this is going to be the ID. And now what I just need to bind this to column inside the combo box. So I'll simply say combo box 1 dot data source. What is the source? At this point, where exactly the data is, the data is with this data table. Okay, so I'll simply pass this data table here. Once I do this, and when I run this application, you will see your city is going to be loaded. You can see here it is already seen. So when this form gets loaded, you can see your cities: Ahmedabad, Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, Chennai, Allahabad. And you can do anything here. You can select any city, and you can pass this city to anywhere where exactly you want. Actually, you can manipulate this combo box to do so many things. I hope you understand how exactly you can bind a control named as combo box with your database. Thank you so much for listening to me.